and welcome. We're thrilled to have you join us for today's Creative Conversation. This is a new series where I invite you to join in conversation with artists that have recently been on the stage of Des Moines Performing Arts and that have impacted the Central Iowa community. I'm Eric Olmscheid, the Director of Programming and Education with Des Moines Performing Arts, and welcome. Tonight, we draw back the curtain on actor, magician Max Darwin, known on stage as The Amazing Max. His last in-person performance was on February 29th, 2020, right here in Des Moines at the Temple Theater. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, Max has done the ultimate pandemic pivot and has done nearly 1,000 virtual magic experiences. He has been featured on Brain Games and a magic consultant for Gotham, Blind Spot, and America's Got Talent. His solo show, The Amazing Max, has been in New York City off-Broadway, toured the world, including right here in Des Moines, and has received great raves from the New York Times. As an actor, his TV credits include Sneaky Pete opposite Bryan Cranston, FBI, and many others. We are so delighted to have the amazing Max, or Max Darwin, with us tonight. Welcome, Max.
Woo! Hey, Eric, how are you?
I'm so great. How are you, Max?
If I was any better, I'd be twins. It's so nice to see your face.
It's so great to see your face. And you know what's amazing with this pandemic? I feel like I've been able to see your face so many times. We had you here in February here in Des Moines. And I know you live in New York, but you're currently residing in someplace much warmer. Why not in this moment?
Yeah, we're hiding out in Florida for the cold, during the cold.
Yeah, you've turned into snowbirds.
Yeah, temporary snowbirds, first time ever. But guys, I highly recommend it. I know most people are in a blizzard right now or getting over one. It's really great here. It's like 80 and breezy.
Nice. Well, I'm jealous. We had one of the 100-year storms here in Des Moines recently with, I think it was 13 and a half inches last Monday, which was like a 150-year record for the most snowfall in one day, which is crazy.
That's amazing.
It is wonderful, but also to see you here virtually is awesome because we I guess it was a few months ago, we did a virtual show with you. We were one of those nearly 1,000 with some of our young people here in Des Moines. Yeah,
that was 990 something because a few days later I hit the 1,000th one. That was super fun. How fun was that?
Oh, it was so great. And those of you who are joining us that weren't able to see that, basically Max took his magic show and made it virtual, and we're able to engage with students or young people, not even say students, children and adults, families, to make their own magic show.
Yeah, what's amazing is because of the circumstances we find ourselves in, it's not possible to do live performance, at least in a safe way. But the performances that I do get to do with a handful of people, or let's say a bunch of people watching, but dealing one-on-one with someone, it's really amazing the depth of communication and to be able to have a deeper conversation and kind of more meaningful personal connection with people than, say, with a theater full of people. Doing a theater show is very different than talking directly to you. And,
Well, so Max, I want to come back to the show itself, but I want to dive in a little bit more because I think it's interesting to look at what you've done leading up to The Amazing Max as a magician, and now known over the world as a leading magician for young audiences. But can we talk a little bit about what sparked this interest? Why magic?
When I was a kid, my parents were street performers. And so I grew up in a household, Eric, filled with juggling clubs and funny costumes, and they were always building props and stuff. But truthfully, I grew up watching great comedians, watching the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges, and I fell in love with comedy. And there also was a little magic store in DC where I grew up, and I used to get to go and pick out a trick here and there. And at the same time, my grandfather owned a hardware store in Dallas, Texas. And every time I was down there, he would have a magic trick or two for me to play with there too. So I don't know. All these things were around. My dad loved magic when he was a kid. So I assume, those things found their way into my periphery. And in addition to loving storytelling and comedy and vaudeville, like Danny Kaye and Singing in the Rain. I can't tell you how many times I watched Laurel and Hardy as a kid, over and over and over again. And I think all of those things, once I was old enough to be taken to see a magic show or a magician, or it left a mark on me. Like that feeling of wonder that you feel when you see something amazing. Kids experience it all the time because they don't know as much as you or I. They haven't witnessed as much. And that feeling really brings us back to feeling like a kid again. And I just remember feeling that so strongly and so deeply when the first time I saw David Copperfield when I was a kid. I think I was 8 years old, 7 or 8, and my dad took me to see him live. And I just remember thinking, reality was plastic. Like, what's going on? It was a theatrical, and it was in a theater, right? So it was a theatrical experience, the likes of which I'd never witnessed, even though I'd been to plays and seen lots of movies. It was a very unique, wonderful thing.
And you've been able to marry both magic and being an actor together. And you're not exclusively a magician, right? So
totally.
Where did you find that pathway in your career? You found this love early on. Did you then say, "Oh, I want to be a magician," or "Oh, I want to be an actor," that ended up being an actor who does magic?
It's funny. I never thought that magician was a job you could have. I'm still skeptical. Just like, can one be a ninja, or can one be a spy, like a super spy? Like, to me, in my brain, it was always a thing like, how does one become a stand-up comedian? It's this foreign idea. Now, of course, the answer is you do years and years and years of work on it, right? That idea never occurred to me, but I knew you could be an actor. I knew there was lots of actors that made up show business and what we know. So I went to a performing arts high school in DC, never thinking I was going to be a magician, and but always loving magic, always having a deck of cards in my backpack. And then I went to SUNY Purchase, acting conservatory at SUNY Purchase. And I got a BFA in theater and specifically just in acting. And only when I was out of college did I see people were getting paid to do this. And the ones that I saw, I didn't think were, I thought there was things that I could bring to performing magic specifically for kids and with kids that I didn't see a lot of people doing. And so I got really excited to just work on myself, just be the best me I could be. And one by one, show by show, eventually I've done a show for one person, for 100 people, for 3 people, for 2 kids that are asleep and 1 that's awake. Literally a bunch of kids in a swimming pool, all these different situations that make you a better performer.
Right.
And eventually I took that show and I was like, you know what? Years later, right? Just like those stand-up comedians put in their hours, years later, I said, you know what? We're making this into a show. And I went and I rented a theater and we just went at it. We had at it.
And I'm assuming you've done a lot of trial and error in that time that you were building it, like what works, what doesn't work, the arc of the whole thing. Because what's beautiful about your work, Max, is that you really understand how to channel the energy and the joy of a child. And as an adult who the first time I saw you, I was an adult, but it immediately brought back that joy that you see and that wonder that you experience as a child, much like you had when you were a kid.
Thanks, man.
It's really beautiful. And I remember being completely skeptical the first time I saw your show, being like, oh man, a magician who focuses on young audiences. Like, and then you see it and you're like, no, this is really, really spectacular. So
that means so much, man. There is this stigma, right, around magic, specifically around the words birthday party magician. And let me tell you something. I have seen some of the best magic of my life, people performing at a kid's birthday party. And it has this awful idea where this image in your mind where, oh, here comes the clown. Oh, no, oh, no. I've always thought of it as performing magic with kids as opposed to just for them, because you know there's a huge kid inside you and me, inside all of us. There's a child just hoping to play. You know, in our work, in our hobbies, there's the kid that's hoping to find joy and play somehow. The playful, mischievous little Eric that's inside of you, and the little Max that's inside of me.
Right.
And so I've always thought a bit about it as every time I can see that look on a kid's face, I know I myself remember exactly what it felt like. And somehow I've fallen into this beautiful situation where I get to conjure, to use a pun, conjure that expression, or organically let that expression happen to someone. So I like to let the magic happen in their hands, and everyone just see them, see their mind process what just happened. Mm-hmm. That to me is far more special than me coming out and going, look what I can do. Hey, here's a trick after trick after trick. I'd much rather immediately connect with someone and let the kids do the magic and experience the magic, as opposed to me performing for them. Mm-hmm. So the audience, as you saw, the audience is literally 50% of the show. My show is 100% interactive from the moment it begins to the moment it ends.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Those of us joining us that are watching tonight, this is Max Darwin with The Amazing Max. If you have questions for Max and would like to be part of the conversation, we invite you to put that in the chat or the comment box on YouTube or Facebook, and we'd be happy to ask those questions with Max. So Max, continue the conversation, thinking about how you made this pivot to virtual. Many artists right now are struggling. They don't have an art form that translates to a virtual platform very well. And you've been able to capitalize on a really beautiful virtual transition of your show. So much so we're bringing you back a second time on Saturday. So tell us a little bit about making that pivot and that transition to the virtual space and what that meant for you.
Well, thanks, Eric. It has been, I'll tell you, I've been my own, I was the first skeptic, right? The moment Broadway closed back in March, I think everybody in the theater industry took a step back and said, oh no, what are we gonna do? Because theater inherently, it doesn't translate as well as music does. I don't wanna say it doesn't translate as well. It's a harder translation visually to video than say music or music. But what I realized, and I have seen quite a few other magicians who have been able to make it work, but what I've found is that it's the interaction, it's the live. It's the fact that it's live and I can talk to you and you can talk to me. You can ask me a new question right after this, and I'm gonna give you an answer. And I can talk to you. And it's this back and forth. And what magic has allowed me to do is really give people the sense of accomplishment, because no one's expected to know how to do a magic trick. If I say, okay, let's all do this trick with a pencil, I'm not expecting anyone to know how to do it. And to be able to give people this small sense of accomplishment of doing a trick is something I discovered well into doing this. Mm-hmm. But at the very beginning, I completely doubted that it would work. Broadway closed, and my wife and I were talking, and she said, you know what? We're gonna do virtual magic lessons. And I said, I like that idea. I don't know if it'll work. And she said, no, let's try it. And Eric, I thought we would make enough money to buy some bread and milk. And that first week I taught 90 lessons. The second week I taught 90 more. And I didn't take a day off for 1 month, and then figured out a way to take 1 or 2 days off. But I was blown away by how much people wanted connection, human connection. The moment we were all, and of course in hindsight, it makes sense, right? We're all trapped at home. Everyone says, stay at home. How can we connect? And if it weren't for my wife, Christine, who you know, she's an agent, incredible, Christine Cox.
She's amazing.
It wouldn't have happened, because I've taught magic in the past, but never like this much virtually. And the one thing I said immediately was, well, I'm not going to just do my show on camera, because I didn't feel like that would translate. And I know a lot of people have tried that, and some of it's worked great for some people, and I've seen it be a little trickier for others. But I said, everyone's going to do that, and that I don't want to have a videotaped stationary recording of a show. It's just never the same as being there, right? It's never the same as being there. And this way, it's been completely beholden to the dogma of what I do, which is it should be organic and talking and back and forth. And it's been so wonderful to get to talk directly to kids everywhere, of every age, as young as 4, 5, and 6, and teenagers, college students, adults, and at corporate events for a couple hundred people. But to talk to them, and most importantly, to start everything by saying very seriously, how are you guys doing today? Because this past year, I think it's important to ask, and just to make sure everybody's doing okay. Because if they're not, I'd love to be able to help. Yeah, people want to be heard. That's what we want to share. I mean, it's been a hard year, right? And before we get to any tricks and any shenanigans and jokes, I just really think it's important to make sure I say, how are you doing? Okay.
Well, and based on what you just said and what I was able to observe, that you took the concept of your show, right? And you created it into basically a new thing. Like you took 3 tricks and said, how am I interacting with them? And it's very different than what the performance that we saw in March, but it's so well crafted. Shamelessly will plug, Max, that you're coming back with, episode 2 on Saturday, which means it's a totally new show, right? So you're taking the next step further, so you can really see how you can make your own magic show. One of my favorite things, and I would love for you to tell people about, is the fact that you're basically teaching kids how to be their own be a magician and have their own show. All it takes is, what do you say, 3 tricks?
That's right. At the end, I say, oh my gosh, you guys, you now know 3 tricks. Do you know what it's called when you put 3 tricks together? That's a show. It may be a short one, Eric, but it's a show. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, buddy? Right? I mean, like, right. And not only that, but each of those things alone, also I say, oh, I just realized something, you guys. I think this is going to work through Zoom. If you wanted to show anybody, like your grandparents or a friend, I just have this feeling that you'd be able to show these tricks to someone through the computer. We have to make fun of it. I mean, there's a real joy in not in the fooling people, right? That's very important, that there's a secret that someone doesn't understand. That's what makes it mysterious and feel special and pulls that kid out of us. But it's not so much about tricking people, although I do work with a lot of kids that take great pride in being able to trick people. But in sharing something awesome that I probably showed them originally that made them go, and then they get to show it to someone. Even if it's as simple as like you said, teach kids everything we do is with stuff you already have at home. You don't need to go out. You don't need to buy anything or order anything from Amazon or anywhere else. So I say, go get me a rubber band, get some pencils And so Eric, this rubber band will literally jump through my fingers onto these two fingers. And normally in magic, you wouldn't like tell the person what's about to happen. You'd let that be a surprise. But this trick is so good. I'm telling you, in front of your face, it's going to jump through my hand, okay? And it's nothing but a real rubber band. And all you do, Eric, is say go. And when you say go, it will happen right in front of you.
Go. That's amazing.
Isn't that fun?
It's great. And then I go, how the heck did you do that? And it's probably super simple, basic magic.
Oh, wait, did you want me to tell you how I did it?
Well,
wait
a minute. Don't you have to take like an oath that you're never going to tell? How does that work? Because don't you take an oath that you're never going to tell how you do the tricks, but yet the foundation of this whole show is telling kids how you're doing their tricks?
Yeah, that's why I make them take the oath at the end, Eric, so they don't tell anybody, okay?
Remember, you told them at the beginning.
Yes, that's right. Well, hey, I'm a giver. I love to share. What can I tell you?
So there's no like magic police that's going to come arrest you for like...
Oh, there are. You don't know about the magic police?
Okay. Are they kind of like No, I don't know the magic police.
Yeah, no, it's like CIA, FBI, NSA, and then magic police. And they go around kind of like Santa Claus, like in the middle of the night when you don't know they're coming. And if you told someone the secret, they shake you out of bed and they go, hey, stop telling people secrets. And then boom, they're gone. And you're just like, and nobody believes you is the thing because it's magic. They're magic.
It is magic because what they're doing is magic. Okay. So I'm curious, live performance. I know you probably missed the heck out of it. Nearly a year, 50 weeks since you've had a live show, 49.
Coming up. I mean, the last one was with you, my friend.
Yeah, February 29th. So
February 29th.
Tell us what you miss most about being in the live space with others, and or some sort of like crazy fun story because it happened live.
Okay, let's do both. First, I think what I miss is the group mind, right? Tears and laughter is contagious, right? I mean, when you see something funny, you might know it's funny, but it's the group laughing together. That's why we go to a movie, right? Because watching something with a large group of people is this special thing that cavemen or the Greeks figured out early on, like everybody get together at the amphitheater. We're going to watch this together. And being able to kind of command or conduct a room full of people's attention to one spot and to bring everyone to a moment of or a joke is a really special thing. Like surfing, I think of it like getting to surf a fun wave. Or maybe a roller coaster is better. It's like we're all going on this roller coaster ride, and I built the track. And I do miss that feeling. But you know what? Over some of these virtual experiences, like we're going to do Saturday, Saturday at 11 o'clock Central, I've been able to get some of that back. I've found ways to connect people, and it hasn't been easy. It's taken time and getting it wrong here and there until I think we've been able to get to a point where we've been able to get a little bit of that back, that sense of we're doing this together, as opposed to let's all individually watch this. I'll have the kids applaud for someone else. Everybody applaud for him. Everybody look in the box next to you. I'm always playing with new things, but definitely that group mentality, that group experience, that's for me is what I miss. And then in terms of funny stories,
what's something wild?
Funny stories. There's so many funny stories. Charlie? Yeah. Okay. See, I look over to my wife because I'm like, what's the best one? Okay, so for 4 months, I was teaching this incredible child. He's so smart and he's so funny. I could just talk to him endlessly. And the very first day I met him, he was, how old was Charlie, Christine? 7? He's 7. And I said, "Hi, Charlie, I'm Max." And he was a little bit nervous. And he said, "Hi, I have a dog." And I said, "Oh man, I love dogs, Charlie. What's your dog's name?" And he just went, "She speaks Spanish." And I said, "That's more important. What does she say in Spanish?" And he said, "I don't know. I don't speak Spanish." And then he went on to say, I said, "Well, how did your dog learn Spanish?" And he said, "Because my mom dropped a quesadilla and the dog ate it." And I said, "And now she speaks Spanish." And he said, "Yeah."
Oh my goodness.
That was just like a glimpse into the next 4 months I had with this incredible, hilarious child whose dog spoke Spanish. And Eric, would you believe the dog actually spoke Spanish?
What? No.
Yes.
Spanish barking, perhaps. Yes.
Yeah. It was like, "Ole."
So, Max, before we run out of time, I want to ask you about your Max Cares work. Because when you were here in Des Moines, you took a visit to Blank Children's Hospital, Child Serve, as well as you did a birthday party with the Youth Emergency Services Shelter. But you have a huge commitment to doing community programs like this. Tell us about what inspires you to do those, or what that means for you.
Well, it's always been really important to me and my wife to be able to give back, and give back in a meaningful way that is special, and that we can do, that we're fortunate enough to be able to do, that maybe other people can't do, like bring a magic show to some people that really need some cheering up in a hospital, or to bring a magic show with a whole bunch of laughs to some people in a hospital that need some cheering up, or to bring a birthday party magic show to some kids who normally don't get a birthday party. But during this pandemic year, God, it's more than a pandemic, right? This whole past year, the moment COVID hit and we were in New York, it was very bad immediately. And we wanted immediately to figure out, how can we help our first responders in New York, let alone everywhere. But at that time, we were like, okay, what can we do? And so we figured out a way to reach out to a group that represented the families of frontline workers. And one of the things we were able to do was do a magic show for the kids of parents that were at work at the hospital, or on the front lines somewhere. And that was one unique thing that we've been able to do this year, besides really working hard to continue to work with kids that are going through treatment in a hospital. And I keep telling people, if you think you've had a hard quarantine, you and me, talk to the NIH and the kids that are going through treatment and they can't leave their bedroom for 3 months. It's really rough. But to bring an iPad or a TV in and crack jokes and teach them some magic tricks with just stuff that they already have around, a pencil, a dollar bill, and to just generally make light where there was a little bit of dark, is not only selfishly incredibly fulfilling to me, but it's been really it's one of the most important things that we do, besides just doing what we do, is making sure that the Max Cares program is continually a part of that. And may I say, lastly, we can't do it everywhere without people like you and DMPA, without helping us connect with those places. So like, it really is group effort. You guys are really part of that.
It was really great to, I know that the team that was able to be with you for each of those experiences all just came back with such positive feedback and experiences for those 3 visits you did while you're in town. And on top of that, I think we did a sensory friendly performance, which I believe was the thing. I think what part of that was, I think it was your first sensory friendly performance you've done. So working with students on the autism spectrum and other sensory sensitivities, which was really great.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's close up by talking a little bit about Saturday. So we have a virtual Magic Academy with the amazing Max, episode 2, happening on Saturday, this Saturday, February 6th. Tickets are still available. It's all done via Zoom, $20. We'd love for you to join us. Max, what do you want them to know before they rush out right now to buy tickets?
I want them to know that they need nothing except to join us. That's it. We won't ask you to bring anything you need to leave the house to get, besides the chainsaw. No, we're not going to do that trick. I was just informed we're not going to do that trick.
I already bought my chainsaw, though.
No, we don't. You don't need that. We're just going to use ordinary household objects, some bills, some coins, a pencil, not the chainsaw, apparently. That would have been a good trick, but we'll save that for the Amazing Max episode 3.
I can't wait. Max, thank you so very much for joining us tonight, giving us a little glimpse into your creative process and your career. So thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me, Eric. It's always such a joy to work with you. Hope to see everybody Saturday.
Absolutely. And to our viewers joining us tonight, thank you so much. We miss you. Please know that we look forward to being in the theater next to you and look forward to that day when we can do so safely. Until then, we hope you're able to join us in some of our virtual programs, and please stay safe. Thank you.